Welcome to the Payout Playbook, your go-to show for all things college football betting. I'm your host, Michael Jascott, aka MikeyPickem, and today we're breaking down the biggest matchups and betting opportunities for Week 2. We're still getting things kicked off around here, so grab a drink and listen up. If you're looking to get an edge on the sportsbook or you just want to stay informed, you've come to the right place. On today's episode, we'll cover our top picks against the spread and some key over-under totals to keep an eye on. We'll also look at some of the under-the-radar games. So far this season, we are 4-3 against the spread and with over-unders as well. Last week, there was no podcast, but the following bets were winners around here. Tennessee minus 13.5, Tulane minus 5.5, and the Merrimack-Kent State game under a total of 50.5 points. Let's kick things off with our game of the week. It's Michigan, the Wolverines, yes, at the Oklahoma Sooners. The home team here is favored by 5 points with the total set at 45.5. I'd like to see a quarterback duel here. Let's start with Michigan. Freshman sensation Bryce Underwood performed admirably in his first game last week in a 34-17 win versus New Mexico. He threw for 251 yards and a touchdown. The Sooners run out John Mateer, a transfer from Washington State. He absolutely balled out in the 35-3 drubbing of Illinois State in Week 1. Wink Martindale, that is, returns in his second season as defensive coordinator and leads an always stout Michigan defense. Brent Venables, the Sooner head coach, is also the defensive play caller here in 2025. Oklahoma hasn't looked too great under Venables, 6-7 seasons in 2022 and 2024, and then 3 straight bowl losses. Not too many on-field trends to pick apart this early in the season, but I'll take the over 45.5. Mateer is a veteran quarterback that threw the ball 37 times in Week 1, and I think Oklahoma will be able to move the ball. And Underwood on the other side should keep the Sooners defense on their heels. By the way, this is the first and only meeting of these two blue bloods. It was in 1976 in the Orange Bowl. The Sooners won 14-6. I'll take the over in this one. Next, let's jump into my top picks against the spread for Week 2. These are games where I think I've got a strong edge based on team trends and last year's performance. Pick 1, Baylor at SMU, minus 2.5, the home team. 63.5 points is the total. First up, you got to take the Ponies, SMU, minus 2.5. Quarterback Kevin Jennings is experienced and an absolute weapon used by head coach Rhett Lashley. Remember, they made the playoffs last season, and although they pummeled East Texas A&M 42-13 in Week 1, they gave up nearly 100 yards in penalties and 2 pick sixes. Baylor, meanwhile, lost 24-38 to SEC foe Auburn at home. And although I like the rushing attack with Bryson Washington, I'm not sure the Bears can secure a victory at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. Once again, I'll take the Mustangs minus 2.5. The second game here is UCLA at UNLV. I like UNLV, and it's because of their creativity on offense and Anthony Calandria, or Antony as we call him around these parts. The transfer from Virginia has played well as a member of UNLV, last week throwing 249 yards with an 82% completion percentage against Sam Houston State. The Rebels also field quarterback Alex Orji, the Michigan transfer, but typically use him in running situations only. On the other side of the ball is another transfer quarterback, Nico Yamalevea, who bolted from Tennessee last offseason. He absolutely struggled Week 1 in a 43-10 loss to Utah. He threw for 136 yards but only completed half of his passes. He was touted, folks, as being one of the great up-and-coming quarterbacks, but he'll need to step it up. The pick, UNLV and Antony plus 2.5. Our third pick against the spread is Houston versus Rice. Former Texas A&M quarterback Connor Weigman is the man at Houston these days, and he played well in a 27-zip win at versus Stephen F. Austin. They also carried the ball 46 times to a tune of 191 yards. Rice, meanwhile, squeaked out a victory on the road versus the Ragin' Cajuns, 14-12. The game saw total passing yards for both teams dip under 150. Rice controlled the ball and ran for 206 yards, but the 2 Louisiana turnovers will really give Rice the upper hand. Against a quality opponent in Houston that is definitely able to score, I'll say Rice will have a difficult day, to say the least. Willie Fritz, the head coach at Houston, had a very successful tenure at Tulane, and I think his boys will cover on the road at Rice. The pick, Houston minus 14. Texas State versus Texas San Antonio is our next one. Last year's data doesn't often mean that much, but Texas State won 49-10 in this matchup. The Bobcats have also covered 3 in their last 4 games against the Roadrunners. They handled Eastern Michigan last week with a score of 52-27. They had 606 total yards and were 70% on third down. Meanwhile, UTSA lost on the road to Texas A&M. Sure, a better opponent, but I like the Bobcats plus 5 in this spot. Now it's time for the big dog alert. If you're feeling a little risky or looking for some value, here's an underdog I'm eyeing. USF versus Florida. Florida is favored by 18.5 points. Did you see South Florida handle Boise State? I mean, that defense was nasty and tough. Sure, they head to the swamp in Gainesville, but Florida seemingly hasn't been the same under Billy Napier. They've only got one winning season since he got there in 2022. Meanwhile, Byron Brown, the quarterback at USF, is the real deal. He was very efficient and ran the ball effectively as well. Florida quarterback DJ Lagway presents a problem for the Bulls, of course, but 18.5 points seems too good here. Give me USF with the points and maybe the under 52.5 as well. Let's talk over-under totals now. Here's a game where I see good value on the total points line. It's Virginia, the Cavaliers, heading to North Carolina State. 54 total points is the line. And listen, the Virginia Cavaliers are off a decisive 48-7 win versus Coastal Carolina in Charlottesville. They head to North Carolina this week to face the Wolfpack. Listen, Virginia debuted over 50 new players from the transfer portal last week, and they are a much better team than previous seasons. New quarterback Chandler Morris, who threw for 31 touchdowns last season for North Texas, had a very efficient game and wasn't sacked once. The Wolfpack narrowly beat East Carolina in Week 1, 24-17, and each squad passed for over 300 yards. I like North Carolina State running back Hollywood Smothers. Yes, Hollywood Smothers. Both UVA and NC State can move the ball. So let me say this. I'm taking the over 54 total points, and maybe, just maybe, we'll consider the Cavaliers plus 2.5 as well. All right, before we wrap up, let's get to some listener questions. Just one today. Question. Clay Helton returns to Southern California, but this time as the head coach of Georgia Southern. The line is set at 29 for the Trojans. What do you see happening here? Listen, that's a nice question. I always appreciate when someone remembers a coach from years ago. He had two good seasons at USC, 10-3 in 2016 and 11-3 in 2017. Last year, he was 8-5 in his third year at Statesboro. Last week, the Eagles lost 42-14 at Fresno State. They had a bunch of trouble moving the ball and punted 7 times. That 28-point difference is almost precisely the spread as they face against the Trojans. So could we speculate that USC is better than Fresno, they'll be able to defeat Georgia Southern by a greater margin? We could, and I think I will. Normally, I'd have more faith in a team getting 29 points, but Georgia Southern played awful last week. They continue their West Coast trip with another big loss. I'm taking USC minus 29. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Payout Playbook. I hope these insights help you make smarter bets and even maybe you win some money. I do it for you. I love college football, and I love the idea of helping you make a couple extra bucks and spending it where you'd like. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe, and never miss an episode. Good luck with your bets, and we'll see you next week for more college football action. Enjoy week 2.